Morning, everyone. I would like to thank Dr. Sui, Dr. Cothran, and Dr. Tallis for putting together the workshop and inviting me to be part of it. I am an R&D staff at Oak Ridge National Lab in the Remote Sensing Group that is part of the National Security Sciences Directorate. Fundamentally, I'm a geographer, but coming from an engineering background, so I have an overlap across the board, but my research interest and my expertise has been in GIScience and disaster science. That's the intersecting area where most of my research has been. So my talk, unlike the talks we have heard so far, is going to discuss from a fundamental perspective what is convergent GIScience and why do we need it. So when we think about the priorities, we need to understand what it is and why we need it before we set the priorities. So convergent GIScience, unlike the NSF convergent research, that is one of the top 10 ideas that was published in 2016, convergent GIScience discussion has been going on long before that. So I would start with this one that came out by Dr. Goodchild and Gopal in 1989 as part of the National Center for Geographic Information Analysis to set the trajectory for convergence research. Then this one came out in 2004 discussing convergent perspective about GIS and spatial analysis. Then in 2010 we got into the web mapping aspect because Pitney Bowes and Microsoft, they decided to combine their desktop GIS along with web to create the web mapping, and now it goes to we have everything at a scalable format on the web. Then GIS and social media discussion started in 2011 with the social media growth of it. Now with big data, data science, and artificial intelligence, we are again back to discussing convergent GIScience. Should it be a spatial data science? So it seems anytime there is a technological advancement, we are back to discussing what convergent GIScience is supposed to be. So it just seems kind of odd that we are visiting it, the same topic over and over in the context of a technological advancement without about setting the base what it should be. So this leads to the question, why should we have a convergent GIScience? Some of the advancements is it advances GIScience in terms of theory and application of it. It leverages the strength from other disciplines, like we are going to hear from different disciplines in this room, so that gives the example of it, and also vice versa, like Dr. Goodchild mentioned in the neurosciences where they are borrowing from GIScience. So it is a give and take relationship that allows us to do many things. New theories like the network ontologies or the place-based GIS aspect, they come up. It allows transdisciplinary and interdisciplinary research in real sense of the word that everybody is talking about. However, there are limitations to it as well. In some cases, GIS becomes a means to an end. We create a map to visualize and communicate it without understanding what the underlying principle of GIScience is. It's not necessary. Often the central aspect of GIScience is lost by the technology. We just need to create a pretty map. We just need to put it on the web, have a slider, and so on and so forth. So, but that is visualization, not GIScience. Location privacy component. We rarely talk about it nowadays. We talked about the human aspect of it. If we are going to talk about the human aspect in GIScience, shouldn't we be talking about the privacy component as well? That goes hand in hand. The quality and the quantity of data seems to determine what the convergent GIScience is supposed to be and undermines the theoretical components of it and the theory development that we think about. So what is convergent GIScience? I don't have an answer. That seems to be fundamentally where the problem is, at least from my perspective. Is it just the convergence of technology and data, like we have been doing? Or is it a team GIScience, converging technologies for diverging interests? That means we are going to create a convergent GIScience for every problem, every team of people. So are we getting a convergent force or are we creating a divergent GIScience at that point? Because if we go by team GIScience definition, come up with something that makes my life easier to address this transdisciplinary research in this box, then I cannot replicate it in a bigger picture. So my convergent GIScience is becoming divergent with tiny pieces. So when we talk about, so this leads me to my last slide. I'm not going to talk after that. The priorities. When we talk about priorities for convergent GIScience, I think we need to go back to the basis. The saying that going back to my roots. What is central to GIScience? It has been mentioned in the first presentation by Dr. Goodchild. GIScience has a geospatial data that has a space and time component that is inherent to anything and everything that happens in the world. Whether it is in the social or the natural environment, there is a space and time component. And those data, they are available at multiple scales, both spatially and temporally. And those understanding do influence the uncertainty aspect of it, the reproducibility aspect of it, then the replicability aspect of it. If I'm going to come up with a convergent GIScience, I need to address those questions and how it is going to impact your decision making before we go forward. It also, based on that, some of the priorities that we need to do is understand the unique aspect of the geospatial data and spatial theories in the context of the problem we are trying to explore and explain, and probably go beyond that with predictive and cognitive analytics. Understand the contribution of these data and theories to other disciplines, as well as how the interactions are going to be influenced by it. If we go with mobility analysis, then the spatial scale of the data is going to influence my mobility analysis, where I'm going to get it. So like the example with the Google map is a very good example where the data is coming from and how it is impacting your day-to-day life. Provide a context and a content-specific definition of convergent GIScience. Not just the content, we have to contextualize it. So it could be broadly applicable. Some of the applications differentiate GIScience from technology, which is very basic. It's ironically, we are going back to it, which is supposed to be covered in a 101 class, that your technology is not your GIScience. Making a map does not make you a GI scientist. They're fundamentally different things. So the scientific aspect is maintained. And in terms of educational and outreach activities, we need to increase the understanding of GIScience, not use the map as the only thing that comes out of it, but rather maps should be a way of drawing the people in to increase their awareness. So that's in a nutshell for me. Thank you.